Welcome, Don. You're muted. And
Sorry about that.
no worries. So it is 3:08 and Oregon School Boards Association OSBA Executive Committee meeting on Friday, January 5th, 2024 is called to order. And we will start by welcoming everybody here, especially the newest member of the committee, Don Watson, Secretary Treasurer from Phoenix Talent. Welcome aboard, and really appreciate you being there and attending the meetings in the past month or two, so you're up to speed. And please feel free to raise any questions so we can help you be on board. Welcoming as well Emily Smith, who is now in the capacity of Vice President, President-elect, Chris Cronin, Grant ESD, and Sonia McKenzie from Park Rose as the immediate past president. I want to also welcome staff, general counsel, and members of community that are joining here. Just want to take a personal privilege to say it is an honor of my lifetime to join you and serve along with you on this work, serving the mission and vision of the organization, supporting the staff who are supporting, I believe, more than 1,000 board members serving 545 students across Oregon. It's truly a huge responsibility, not to be taken lightly, an exciting opportunity to do together in this coming year. With that, I want to move to the next agenda, which is approval of the agenda. Is there any motion?
Chair, I move to approve the agenda as presented.
It's been moved to approve the agenda as presented by Chris Cronin and seconded by Sonia McKenzie. Before taking discussion, I just want to highlight that this is an opportunity to remind ourselves of the working agreement, which is any officer or any member can reach out to the officers or the executive director for any agenda items in the future as soon as possible. So this executive committee can consider it by majority vote for future agenda items. So just reminding us for future agenda items, that's the process for the executive committee to consider topics. And we just want to remind ourselves for that. Please feel free to reach out to Emily or myself if you hear from any board member about topics that need to be raised. With that, any discussion on the motion to approve the agenda as presented? Seeing no further discussion, please say aye if you are in favor.
Aye.
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 Aye. Anyone against? Passes unanimously. So the agenda is approved. And the next agenda item is the acting executive director update with Emily Nishik. Emily?
Thank you, Chair. So I just wanted to take a moment to update you all on sort of staffing changes within OSBA. I haven't had a chance to really share the work that's been going on within the organization and the staff. So with me moving into the acting executive director role, I have asked Haley Purcell, who's on the call here today, to step into a little bit more of an expanded role. She's currently the chief legal officer. And so she has agreed to take on chief legal officer and deputy executive director. And so you'll be seeing a lot more of her in supporting me in this work and she'll be helping staff the executive committee. She'll also be the staff lead for the governance committee for the board moving forward, and supporting Spencer, who's our director of policy, with his work with the policy committee as well. So there'll be a lot of connection points there, and just really appreciate Haley, who's stepped in and been a huge support to me during this time. She's been with the organization a very long time. And so I've just really been grateful for her leadership and support. In addition to that, she'll also take on directly supervising the policy and board development teams as well, because legal, board development, and policy all are very interconnected. And a lot of that work has a lot of crossover with the membership. And so just makes a lot of sense to me to have that all under one leadership umbrella as well. In addition to that, you all already know that Chris Davidson let us know this past fall that he was going to be stepping out of his role as Chief Operating Officer in June. And so with that, taking the opportunity to reevaluate that role, he had taken on the human resources part of the work for the organization too recently in the last year, I believe. And so in looking at kind of the needs of the organization and where we are right now with staff and just sort of the nature of staffing changes, wanting to bring in a director of people operations, so an expanded human resources role that will really focus on the entire employee experience from talent acquisition all the way through to the offboarding process, and really looking at employee engagement and their experience, leadership development, and really someone who can increase capacity across the team in our ability to retain and train staff, so that we're making sure that we are serving our members at the highest level that we can, and to be able to ensure that our employees are having a good experience too. So that's something that you'll be seeing. We're hoping to get that out early this year and start working on that. And then with that, we'll transition Chris Davidson's former role, that's the COO role, to a director of finance and business operations, which is what it was originally, to kind of balance that out, being mindful of the budget. But just feel like this is a really important step that we need to take right now to really benefit all of OSBA's staff and employees. So those are the major changes. I just felt, I know it's administrative, but I felt like it's important to keep you all in the loop as you'll be working more directly with some of the staff. It's kind of my goal to create more touch points with our team that is very talented. We do this work across the state. And want to make sure that you all have relationships and touch points with some of our leadership team and can help guide this work and support you all in the work that you do. In addition to that, the other update that I have that impacts the board and kind of changes how we were thinking about things for the meeting in January, January 19th and 20th. Originally, we had planned for a good chunk of time to be spent on onboarding, the new onboarding process that Mary Paulson had been working on for our new board members that will be joining us. And so with the need to spend significant amount of time working with the facilitator, Salam Noor, on kind of helping our board come together and figure out how we want to approach 2024 and work together. We're going to set aside that time as a facilitated discussion and really give the board an opportunity to dig in on our agreements and how we want to operate as a group, and help with some of the healing that needs to take place, and also bringing in our new board members into that as well. So instead of focusing on the very kind of tactical training and onboarding process that we would typically do in January, we're going to move that to a special meeting in February, where we'll provide just a lot of training and support, both for new and old school board or board members, to be able to, so that we're all on the same page and are operating from the same information. But felt like it was important to do this sort of community building with the team first before taking on the training aspect of it that will happen in January or February. And I think that is all of my updates, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Emily. Any questions or comments? Chris.
Chair, I would just thank Emily for that update and for the fact that already she is looking at the actual needs of the organization and making some adjustments as she feels is needed. I really support strengthening that connection with the board and the staff, and also support the efforts to improve and increase the employee experience. I'm really pleased to see that. So good job, and thank you for that update.
Thank you, Chris.
Yeah,
So-
I think I just have a comment too. I don't think I have a question specifically. I also agree with the opportunity of broadening that the HR role and having something that's really centered in that. I think that onboarding piece is critically important, particularly when you are recruiting. I think my hope is that as we have had in conversations past about the landscape of what it looks like to work at OSBA, that's also considered, that it is also reflective of the communities and the membership that we serve. And I think that's a real opportunity to bring someone that is trained in HR process and systems, that knows how to appropriately onboard and support staff, to recruit, training, all those things. I think that's critically important. So I'm looking forward to seeing that position and what that brings to OSBA. So in agreement with both with your movement and the things you've decided to create. I think that's a great movement forward for OSBA. So
Thanks, Sonia. Any other questions or comments? Well, thank you, Emily. It's been really great to hear these updates, and I feel motivated that we are going in the right direction, and you are as well. So congratulations on the increased roles for Haley and Chris, and for all these changes that I believe are going to help support our staff, support our membership, and definitely looking forward to January meeting to bring forward the work that we need to do. And I agree with you. The conversations with Salam Noor are going to be very helpful for us to center the work and understand how we can move forward together as a team. With that, I will move the next agenda item, which is a discussion around reviewing January regular board meeting agenda. And I just want to really salute and thank Emily and her team for providing a proposed agenda for the 2 days that is consistent with the sentiment that Emily just shared, focusing the priorities of the board and the priorities of this organization, the needs for staff, and the institution. So I believe I want to provide Emily an opportunity to go over that agenda and provide an opportunity for any questions and discussion around it. But I feel very motivated that it is in the right direction where we are right now. Emily, take it away.
Thank you, Chair. So for the meeting on Friday, January 19th, we have it set up so it's very much like a business meeting, and Linnell has taken all of the things that we've determined that we think are really necessary that need to happen during this time of year with the presidency transition and new leadership. And so you'll see a lot of that reflected in here. There are a couple of changes that I wanted to propose that maybe we table until the March meeting, just with the short amount of time that we have with dedicating more time to the facilitation. So it opens up with the roll call and approval of agenda, like any meeting, and then the consent agenda. I'll let you all just kind of read through there if there's anything that's missing, but this is standard of what we would include for this time of year for the January consent agenda. We will have the audit results. So the finance committee will meet prior to this meeting. They'll review the audit results as well. And then they will, we'll have a presentation that'll be 30 minutes. And then it will go into the proposed revisions for the OSBA investment guidelines that Chris has been working on with the finance committee. So they'll have an update there. The fee structure for the association and services, this is one that I'm proposing that we move to the March meeting, so that we are in the process of still working with the Coraggio group on all of the information that we've collected from the membership and from all of our constituents on the services that we offer. And so you'll see later in the agenda, they're going to come and do a presentation on where we're at. So we're wanting to push that to the March meeting, if you all are okay with that. And we'll take that off of this agenda here. And then the OSBA operating agreements. This is another one that I just kind of wanted to get your thoughts on. The facilitated discussion with Salam will be the following day. We will spend, I think, a good amount of time on those. And so I'm not sure if it makes more sense to sort of go over, make sure they're still where we want to be and then recommit to them, or if you want to have that here as part of the committing to the operating agreements and then just using those the next day in the facilitation. So we can pause there.
Mhm. Thank you, Emily. Yeah, anyone wants to contribute with the thoughts? I have a thought, but I'll open up for everybody. Sonia and then Chris.
Yeah, so this primarily is where if I recall, if my memory is bad, operating agreements is generally a lot of times an opportunity for the chair or president to maybe draft some new operating agreements or an update or a modification. I think it's also critically important. We may potentially have 4 new board members, so I think it's important to have space for that. So there's an understanding of agreements. We have those nice little table things that are really nice, but I think it's important that they're spoken into the record, that there's an understanding of what our agreements are. I don't think that we need a lot of time, but I think in terms of just operating as a board and having a president for the first time, convening a meeting in person, it's important to at least speak to those agreements. My understanding is that the next day that we will have a facilitated discussion, and I don't know if at that time we are looking at amending operating agreements based on that discussion. That's not what I'm clear on. If that's happening, I'm not sure, correct me if I'm wrong, but this might be, I think if anything, it'd be good to state what our operating agreements are. And then perhaps at another, maybe the March meeting, we could amend them, because if we can state them on Friday, we have a facilitated discussion. If we decide as a board that we want to amend or change agreements, then we can have an opportunity to do it in March. But I don't think it's something we need to, just from what we've seen, I think it's important that we have those operating agreements spoken in a public meeting with the new president speaking and convening the meeting. So those are my thoughts.
Chris and then Don. Unless Emily, you want to say something, I believe, right? Or you're good?
I'm okay.
Okay. Chris and then Don. Chris.
Well, I agree 100% with Sonia that those operating agreements need to be shared and spoken at our meeting. I am comfortable with doing it at this on Friday. I actually thought it would be very appropriate also to do it on Saturday when we're having our facilitated discussion as well. That seems to me, I don't care, I guess. But I feel like even if we do discuss it on Friday, we need to maybe perhaps revisit those on Saturday. So I'm comfortable with whatever the group decides.
Don, and then I saw Sonia, your hands is up again. Don.
Sonia can go. I took my hand down because everybody was saying what I was thinking. So I'll just pause for a minute.
I took my hand down too.
Okay. Emily, anything you want to add?
Oh, that's totally fine. We can keep that in. How do you feel about the fee structures?
Yeah, if you don't mind, before we go to the fee structures, so just to summarize, we're thinking about, we keep it on Friday, we revisit on Saturday. Friday is basically for information or review. Can I suggest, are we comfortable if we actually start with it after the approval of the agenda? Just to remind folks, like, this is the operating agreement, it's been reviewed. If we have a PDF in a packet, it's at the top of the PDF, so folks can review it. Is that something we're comfortable with? What do you think about that?
I was going to raise my hand. Hold on. Yeah, I'm comfortable with that. But also, let's be as a reminder, we'll have new board members there, at least 4, and maybe even more with the election too, more than that. So we'll have folks who are at the table for the very first time. And I think it's really important. Some people are visual, some people are auditory. So if you have the nice little placard that's really cute that's sitting in front of people, it needs to also be read out loud too. So
Mhm.
Yeah.
Looks like Sammy or Chair, you'll need to take action on it at the meeting as well, or we have in the past.
Okay. So we'll keep it for action. So to summarize, we're gonna keep it for action, top of the agenda, and with the notes that we're gonna have a conversation the following day where we might update it or modify it or improve on it. Cool. Anything else? If there's nothing else, going to the fee structure, comments or suggestions on the fee structure, done.
All right. I don't have the agenda. I looked in board books and couldn't find it. And so I'm kind of blind. So it's really challenging for me to. So I was wondering if there was a spot that I'm missing where I can find them.
Yeah, I will forward you the email from Linnell momentarily
Okay, thank you.
on your Phoenix Talents email. And the agenda will be the 2 Word documents, and we are now on the January 19th one. I have Chris Davidson and then Chris Cronin.
Yeah, I would just say, we haven't even really discussed this as a lead team about what we think for next year and whatnot, so I would almost think it would be good to push this off until March.
Yes.
And then have a conversation amongst the lead team on what we see services looking, especially as we get more info from Coraggio and stuff. I think it's a little premature. I mean, yes, we want to get ahead of budget planning and whatnot, so I think March still accomplishes that, but I still think internally, I think we need some more time with it before we have anything go to the board for this. So I would suggest this item be removed from this agenda.
Good. Chris Cronin, if you don't mind, I have a question for Emily and Chris Davidson. Is there any policy requirements for us to reaffirm the fee structure annually? So we have to take at least a temporary action until the March, or if we have not made an action, the fee structure continues until March.
So you've already voted for the 23-24 fee structure. This is for the 24-25 fee structure. So we're totally fine right now taking no action at this point in time. This is literally just planning for the next year.
Got it. Perfect. Sonia? Oh, sorry, Chris Cronin first and then Sonia.
Well, I'll just say that I completely agree with Chris Davidson, and the only thing I would say is perhaps just as a matter of information to let the board know as a group that we will be that will be after we get results of the Coraggio group, that will be something that the board will address.
Mm-hmm. Sonia?
yeah, I was just going to say I'm in agreement that we could leave this off and discuss in March.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in agreement. We want to assess the need and the priorities of our membership before we set the fees and the structure. So with that, either a motion or I'm going to say without objection, the fee structure for association services agenda item of January 19th will be postponed to a future meeting. Is there any objection? Seeing no objection, passes unanimously. All right, Emily, back to you on the agenda.
So the next item 13 is the signatory authorization for a nonprofit corporation. And so this is, needs to happen at this meeting, a requirement, to transfer that signatory to, President Sammy. And then the next item is proposed guideline placing items on the board agenda. So this is the guideline that we've been working on for quite some time that went through the executive committee and that now needs to go to the board for adoption, on how board members and members at large and staff can request items on an agenda. And then the following item is the investigation of the anonymous complaint. So this is something that we talked about at the last meeting, with recognizing that we'll have, I believe, 5 new board members joining us, that will need to get up to speed on where we are in that process. And so we have we'll have Attorney Mike Porter come and lead us in an executive session to be able to get those team members up to speed. I think initially we had talked about maybe him sending a letter, but felt like it was important for them to have a clear understanding and opportunity to ask questions, since it's something that they'll be responsible for moving forward.
Thank you, Emily. Sonia?
Well, I have a couple, well, just one question and then another question I might need to ask offline because it might be more privileged information, but I'm curious, I'm listed here as a speaker. Is there, will it be appropriate for me to provide, not a timeline, but maybe just provide a brief overview and then introduce Michael? I'm curious why I'm listed there. Or was that just
That's a typo.
placeholder?
I'm sorry.
Okay, I wasn't sure. That answers my question and my other one. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I think it will just be Mike getting everybody up to speed. I did have a question on timing. Right now we have 30 minutes for him. And curious if you all feel like that's enough.
I would double it, my recommendation, to allow ample of time for questions and clarifications. What the committee members think?
I would at least double that, yeah.
I have a question, Chair.
Yes.
Is there going to be new information? Because if it's just a review of what most of the board has already heard, I don't know if we do need to double it. I don't know. I'm kind of hoping that we don't. If it's new information that where board members are going to have a lot of questions, then yes.
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe we would have new information at that time.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Linnell?
it's actually new information to new board members, so I think that you're going to need to double it. It's new to them. So unless you're providing information to them confidentially, securely before the meeting, then we need to provide opportunity for them to ask questions and to be informed, because they're going to be making decisions. 30 minutes may not be enough for new board members who know nothing about this to ask questions about it. So it'd be better to plan the time and maybe run short, run long, or run short than to have run out of time. It makes much more sense to do that.
Yeah. Thank you, Sonia. Before I go to you, Linnell, I will ask a question. Maybe you are privy to. So before I give you the floor, another question or consideration is the timing. Is that going to be too late for a meal or for staff? So I'll hand it over to you, Linnell, about when do we anticipate to adjourn, and was there anything else you want to say?
So I just wanted to remind everybody that the timing in red is just for planning purposes. And it's not actually going to be listed on the agenda. Mm-hmm. That will give you more flexibility for either using less or more time as needed. But as it stands right now, we anticipate, I think this puts us at 9:30.
Okay. So any other questions or comments on the last item of the agenda?
So Linnell, the 7 start time, is that still just a hold time, or is that the anticipated?
That would be giving the board time to eat without having without doing the meeting as well. So they'd have a dinner time and then they would end dinner and then start the meeting. If we could always have the meeting and dinner at the same time. So start the dinner for 15 minutes and then start the meeting after that. I know that it makes it more challenging, but there's a lot that needs to happen in this particular, and no matter how you wiggle it around, it's all the same amount of time.
No pressure, Linnell. Done. Don, you want to say something? I saw your hands up.
I was just gonna say that I would be more in favor of coming up with some solutions. If this wasn't gonna end till what she said 9:30, that's awfully late. That's past some of us bedtime, and my brain shuts down and frustration starts to hit. And I think this is a topic where we don't want brains to shut down and frustration to hit.
Yes. Thank you. To that note, I would just want to add one thing. I think was mentioned already is that the to ensure uniformity of situational awareness, any documentation that has been provided to the boards relevant to this complaint to reintroduce to the board again if legal counsel agrees with that, just to make sure any future actions are made based on the summary, but also based on the documentation that has been shared. So I believe that's the intention of sharing information records or information prior. So with that, I want to maybe lean on you, Emily, and the executive committee. Should we retain the 30 minutes, but also reinforce that please read the confidential information shared prior, and also we include a different time as a follow-up, or should we just reschedule to a later time or earlier time? What do you all think? What should we do?
Is there a time that you guys would like to end by?
I would really like to end by 9 o'clock if that's possible. If it's possible to start dinner a little earlier and make it a little shorter or something. I think that people are traveling in. I think that in past meetings, we've been able to end, at least target at 9 o'clock.
I will work to make that happen.
Thank you, Linnell.
Thank you. That would be wonderful.
So if
Is,
it's, oh, go ahead.
oh, excuse me. Is having dinner during the meeting an option or something that you all definitely want to avoid?
We've done it in the past, sensing the room, I would say probably, maybe we want to avoid it. What does the team think? I see Emily Smith, thumbs up, of, let's have the dinner with the meeting.
Yeah, it's fine by me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Don?
Yeah, fine by me, dinner with
Perfect.
them.
It's probably not my first choice, but I think that under the circumstances, that's a better option than to go extra long.
Okay. Sonia?
Yeah, I'm either way on that. But I do agree to sending information to new board members so they can have time to review prior to our conversation.
Okay. So do I get a concurrence from the executive committee that we would give Emily, the executive director, and Linnell the ability to reschedule, to rearrange the meeting in terms of an earlier time, overlap with dinner, aiming to end early, and keeping the investigation of anonymous complaint information as an agenda item there with the intention that we end around 9. Is that what I'm hearing from everybody? Chris? You're muted.
I was going to do a thumbs up.
Awesome, thanks. All right, Emily, Nishik, back to you.
So that, if there's no other questions or comments about the agenda for Friday the 19th, we can move on to the agenda for the 20th, which is a separate document in the email that Linnell sent. This one's much shorter. So we have a welcome and introduction from the chair, and then we have item number 2, which is the Coraggio group is going to, one of the leads on this for us from the Coraggio group lives in Bend, and so it's a short update presentation on where we are in the process and the priorities that have come out. So they're actually going to Zoom in, so that will be virtual. It'll save us a pretty good expense there for their travel expense. So they will come and do a brief update on where we are in the process. And then item 3 will be the facilitated discussion with Salam Noor. And he's been meeting, as I mentioned in my update, he's been meeting individually with several board members. That is helping him kind of form what that facilitated discussion will look like, and where we really need to focus. And he and I are meeting as well to help design that, but he has a lot of experience helping boards come together and move forward. So he will be leading us through that, and then we will adjourn for the day.
Any questions or discussion? See none, I believe this is there's no further action or decision needed to be taken, Linnell or Emily. Is that correct?
I don't believe so.
Okay. Well, looking forward for this. Thank you, Emily, and thanks, team. I think that's concludes this agenda item. And before we adjourn the meeting, I want to thank you for your work. Take care of yourselves, your family, and your health, and have a wonderful rest of your day. Without objection, the meeting will be adjourned.